Welcome to Study Loop.
Here discussing externalities, we're working with the market for fire extinguishers, and part A is asking us to identify any positive externalities that may exist within this market for fire extinguishers. And what we see here is that these fire extinguishers exhibit positive externalities because even though we may be buying this fire extinguisher just for our own use, by using a fire extinguisher, we may actually be preventing the fire from spreading to others. So we're preventing this property damage occurring to other homes and to other properties. Right, and intuitively that makes sense because if a fire were to start in my home, say my stove caught on fire, and I did not have a fire extinguisher, well, that fire could then spread to the rest of my home and then spread to my neighbor's home as well. So by having this fire extinguisher, I'm able to prevent that property damage from happening to my neighbor's house as well. So that would be a positive externality of fire extinguishers. Now, part B here just wants us to graph the market for fire extinguishers. So we have our basic, we're going to work with the basic supply and demand curve. We have our price and our quantity axes, and we're going to see basic supply and demand curves. So what we have here, this is going to be our demand. We have our supply curve as well, but what our supply curve also is this social cost. So we can label it that as well. And then what we also have here is this social value curve. And that really is just another demand curve, essentially, and it shifts upward. So we have this social value curve right here. And then if we wanted to identify our equilibrium outputs, which is what part C is asking us to do, we can see that we have two equilibriums that exist here, right? It's where supply and demand curve intersect and where supply and social value curves intersect. And we see a couple different outputs that exist. So we have a quantity that exists right here and then another one that is a little bit more. And the difference between these two, I'm going to call this Q1 and Q2, is that Q1 is just our equilibrium output, right? That's just where supply and demand intersect. So Q1 is our equilibrium output. But then Q2 right there, that you can see is where our social value curve intersects with our social cost curve. And that is actually our efficient output. And the reason that these two differ, right, because what we can see here is that Q2 is greater than Q1. Well, they differ because when people are deciding to buy fire extinguishers, we don't necessarily account for that positive externality like we said. So even though our demand is whatever it may be, by purchasing this fire extinguisher, we're increasing the social value of that fire extinguisher. So it is the difference that exists here is simply because we don't account for whatever benefits this fire extinguisher may provide to other people. So let's now suppose with part D here, we want to know if this external benefit is $10 per extinguisher. What policy can the government implement that might yield the efficient outcome? Well, what they could do is they could subsidize $10 per fire extinguisher. And the reason they would do this is because that external benefit is $10. So by subsidizing the $10, it would allow us to produce and yield that efficient outcome that exists right here at Q2 at the intersection of our social cost and our social value curves.